The following episode of Dad vs. Daughter was made possible by a contribution from Daily Magic Games. Sailing Towards Osiris is an Egyptian-themed worker placement action selection game where we are going to be placing workers to gather resources. We're going to be playing city cards. We're going to be building all sorts of kind of monuments. So really a lot going on here. So join me as I show you how to play the game, and then we're going to watch Dad and his buddies take a turn at it, and then we're going to tell you what we think. So check it out. Since I'm going to be showing you a turn with 3 players with Dad and his friends, I've got the board set up for a 3-player game. So let me kind of walk through how we're going to be playing the game, and then you're going to be able to see us play. First, we have our Pharaoh's barge. This is where his body is laying. In fact, if you can look real close, you can see it looks like there's a body right there. The river is divided into 4 sections, and each section represents a round in the game. And you'll see there are little spots on the river that show where those sections are. So as the barge moves down the river, that's going to track our game progress. Now you can see that I already have monuments on the board. In a 3 or 2-player game, you're actually going to take a color that is not being used, and you are going to place them on certain spots in the board that are marked with an ankh. And with the 2-player game, in addition to that, there is a scarab marking, and you're going to be placing unused monuments on those, basically to kind of fill up the board. So let's talk about what we have on the board here. We have areas where we're going to be able to get brick, areas where we're going to be able to get stone, areas where we will be able to get wheat, and cities that we are going to be able to visit in order to get cards. Now, each of us are going to start with our own set of monuments. We're going to have 2 pylons, which are these. We're going to have 4 of the obelisks. And we will also have 3 sphinx. In addition to that, we are going to have a camel. Those are going to be used for the caravans. And then finally, we have our withdraw token. Each player is going to have their own set of 5 boon cards. Now, these are identical for each player, but you can see they are all different. They've got different symbols across the top. And these are one-time uses throughout the game. And you can see they give us special abilities. Like this one here allows us to build a monument on one section of a terrain space that is only occupied by a worker. This one says move one of your monuments on the map to a new location and then take another action, and so forth. So those can come in very handy. Each player is also going to have their own privacy screen and their own color. And this is nice because this tells you what the starting setup is. Each player is going to get 1 city card. They're going to get 2 of each of the resources. Shows you how many of their pieces that they're going to get and their boon cards, as well as end of game scoring over here. For each monument that you have that is adjacent to each other, if you have at least 3, you're going to score 2 points at the end of the game. And then if you have 4 monuments in the same river section, you're going to score 3 points. Also over here, if you are the first player to play all of your obelisks, you're going to get 1 point. If you're the first to play all 3 of your sphinxes, you're going to get 2 points. And if you're the first player to play all of your pylons, you're going to get 2 points. Now, this is a worker placement action selection game, and we are going to have different types of workers. So we have a worker for each of the resource types. You can see here. Now, these guys are master workers because they have clothes on. The other guys are naked, I guess. But normal workers, which we have over here, they can only work in the section along the river that the barge is at, because that's where the Pharaoh's body is. But the masters can go anywhere on the board. Now, the other thing with the normal workers, if the barge has passed, so let's just say that the barge is all the way up here on the 3rd section, then any of your normal workers can go anywhere that the barge has already passed, including where the barge is at. Now, once the barge gets over to the 4th section, your workers can go anywhere. Now, this is where kind of a master builder or master worker comes into play, because they're going to be able to get one additional resource wherever they go. And speaking of resources, how those work is we're going to be placing those workers on empty spots. Now, you'll notice that each of the spots kind of has a line there representing two different sections. So if you're the first player to go there, you put your worker on the middle section, and you're going to be able to get both sides. So in this case, if I put this worker here, this clay worker, I'm going to be able to get 4 of the clay. Same with the stone and with the wheat. Now, let's just say that I wanted to go here. You'll notice that there's already a monument in that space. So I'm only going to be able to get 2 wheat when I go there. So let's talk about what you can do on your turn. There's actually 10 different things, so a lot of options. The first thing you can do is what I just showed you, and that is harvest resources. You're going to be able to place your worker on that spot and get those corresponding resources. You can visit a city, and you'll notice that there are actually 5 cities on the board. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what that is going to allow you to do is get a city card. Now, the city cards are pretty nice because what they do is they are twofold here. They have 2 different things you can do, one or the other. You can either take the resources at the top, and you'll see that there's a bunch of different combinations there, or you can use the ability at the bottom where this says build your planned sphinx on an unoccupied city space. And I'll talk about building those, but city cards are very important to the game. Another thing we can do is we can start or join a caravan. So we take any worker and we take our camel, and there are only 2 caravan spots on the board here, which is blocked off in a 3-player game, or up here. Now, when you go, you'll notice that there are 2 sides. Now, you can choose either side that you want to go to. So if you're the first player, you take your camel, and I'm just going to place him there, and I'll place my worker there. And this is going to grant me 3 brick and 2 wheat. Now, since I was the first one, I am the leader of the caravan. If anyone else comes here, you'll notice the rewards are 2 stone and a wheat. They have to actually give me, the leader, one of those resources. So it's kind of nice being the first one there. The next thing we can do is we can hire a laborer. The laborers are going to be in a pool over here, and let's just put these guys here for the time being. I can give up any 2 resources, and I actually put them on the board over here, and I'll be able to take one of those workers. I can do trades at the market, and that's what you see right here. And I can go in either of these directions. I can either give up 2 wheat and take a stone, or I can give up a stone and take 2 wheat. And you'll notice that there are other configurations there. 2 brick, 2 wheat, 1 brick and a stone for 3 wheat, or vice versa. 2 stone, 4 wheat. I can plan a monument. Now, if I give up the number of resources, depending on which monument I'm going for. So this first section is planning an obelisk. This is planning a sphinx, and this is planning pylons. Now, you'll notice that they require more resources as you go up, and that's because you're getting more victory points at the end. You're going to get 2 points for every obelisk you create, 4 points for every sphinx, and 7 for every pylon. Also, it shows down here at the bottom where you can actually place those monuments on the board. So the obelisk can go on any of the 2 wheat, 2 brick, or 2 stone. The sphinx can go on either of the wheats, 2 brick and 2 stone. And then the pylons can only go on 3 wheat or city spaces. So let's just say that I planned that obelisk there. Next thing I can do is I can actually build that monument. So once I've planned it and paid the resources, then I can place it anywhere on the board based on the placement rules. So let's just say I place it there, and then I would collect my 2 victory points. The other thing I can do is I can play a city card, and I was showing you those earlier. So at that time, I would choose, do I want to take the resources that are on the card, or do I want to do the action that's printed on the card? Another thing I can do is I can play one of my boon cards. Now, when I play that, I'm going to place it in front of my shield because there are certain city cards that allow you to basically duplicate someone else's played boon card for that turn. And finally, I can withdraw from the season. Now, I will take my withdraw token. And if I'm the first player, then what I can do, here are the withdraw bonuses. This gives a brick and a point. This gives a stone and a city card, 3 stone, 4 brick, or 5 of the wheat. Now, when I do that, I would just go ahead and place my withdraw token there, and I would immediately get the resources. But I'm out of the round for that for the rest of the round. I can't do any more actions. But I will become first player or retain it if I was already the first player. Now, anytime anyone else withdraws, what they would do is they would just take their withdraw token and they would place it in front of their screen, basically just to show that they're done as well. You're going to be able to keep taking actions as long as you have the resources or the cards in order to do that. And then once you're finally done, then the round ends. Then we're going to move the boat forward. Any of the resources that we put on the board are going to go back to the supply. Everyone takes their withdraw tokens back, and then whichever one the first player used, you're going to put a cartouche covering that spot so that bonus is not going to be used for the rest of the game. Now, one thing I didn't mention is when you plan these monuments, those resources are going to go back to the supply. But whenever you go over to the market, those resources are actually going to stay there, and they're going to take up that spot. So no one else can take that action at the market while those are covered. Now, there are cards that are going to allow you to take the resources off of the board in that spot. So and the resources are limited. So that's where it can be kind of tight as far as trying to get certain resources to be able to do what you want to do. So the only other thing I didn't talk about is the laborers as far as how those are going to be chosen. So whoever is the regent, and that is the first player, they're going to be able to, they're going to reach into the bag, they're going to take out 3 laborers, and they're going to put them behind their screen. So let's just say I drew these 3. So those go behind my screen. And then in turn, the next players are going to do the same. They're going to draw 3 laborers, they're going to put them behind their screen, and then the player who is the first player, the regent, is going to pull out 4 workers and put them in the labor pool. Now that will leave only 2 workers left in the bag, and the regent then can look and see what those are, but no one else is going to know what they are. Whoops, show you right there. So he knows that there is a master and a regular wheat harvester in the bag. So that can be advantageous because there's a card that allows you to take a selected worker from the bag. Workers don't carry over from turn to turn. So at the end of the round, all the workers that are on the board and any unused workers that are behind a player screen are going to be returned to the bag. And then finally, the last thing we're going to do is any played boon cards, we're going to remove those from the game. Any of the unfinished monuments are also going to be discarded from the game. Now, you might ask, well, why wouldn't they be built? Well, the spaces that they can only be built on may be occupied on the board, so a player may not be able to place them. However, they do have a boon card that says you may leave 1 unplanned monument unbuilt at the end of the season, and then you get to take another action. So there is a way to prevent you from just losing that one. So that's pretty much how to play Sailing Toward Osiris. Now let's watch Dad and his buddies play through a round, and then we're going to tell you what we think. Alrighty, we are starting round 3, and I am the regent. I have this cool first player marker cartouche, which we haven't figured out exactly what that says. It probably means Sailing Toward Osiris because we see a boat. So, yeah, you know, we'll look that up. But as regent, what I will do is I will draw 3 workers out of the bag and put those behind my screen. And then each governor will draw 3 as well. And then I will draw 4 laborers for the labor pool. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And because I am regent, I do get to look at the last 2 that are in the bag. I'll send my master ahead and take 5 wheat.
Take 4 stone.
Alright, 2 will take 4 stone. while the getting's good.
Well, you guys are, whoops. You guys are just getting stoned. All right, I'm going to plan an obelisk, or a pylon, and I'm going to play this where I can plan one using 3 fewer resources than normally required.
Oh, nice.
So instead of the 8 stone, I will only use 5.
I'm going to check the back of that card, make sure that's a real card and not
Here's my 2 wheat.
compare.
And
The shading is a little different on this one. That
and my 4 brick. So discard that.
Did you get your 7?
no, he didn't
No,
do
not
that
until I
yet.
place it.
Oh, right.
It's planned currently.
We'll build 2, 3, and 1.
Well,
For an obelisk.
if I got stone before, I'm going to get baked when I bake the clay.
Look
Yeah.
at that.
Nice. Okay, I will go ahead and place my pylon. I'm going to place him on that city. So I do have 4 along that same river section. So end of game scoring there, but I will get my 7 points now.
Build my obelisk. Yeah, I'll have to go there. I'll take 2 for that. This is my last one, so I get a bonus for being first to build out all my obies.
I will trade 2 pieces of wheat for an additional worker this season.
I will send my worker there, and I will take 4 brick.
Four stone.
Just trying to come up with a nice third one, just something about a harvest, but couldn't quite do it.
And you're getting your weed.
Whoa!
Uh,
Party foul.
Yeah, let's go ahead. I'm going to hire a worker for 2 of my wheat.
do a caravan. 3 brick, 2 wheat.
3 brick.
Yeah.
Okay. So because he's taken the caravan first spot, anybody who would go to the second location would have to pay him one of the resources, making it a little less desirable.
I don't see why it would be. Seems like a good thing.
Plant a sphinx for 4, and 2.
All right. Since you beat me to the punch, I will actually join the caravan. And since I have to give you a resource that I'm getting, I'll take the 2 stone and give you a wheat.
Take a worker. I'll take the wheat guy.
Are you sure?
I think so.
Alright. I'm going to play a boon card. Show that to the camera there.
So this says you get to take a worker of your choice from the draw bag. Whoops. There we go. Nice card to have. Get you a free worker. Well, brick is always a good thing to have, so I'll just take 4 brick.
5 wheat.
I'm going to hire the last worker here.
You're hoarding the workers.
And I'm not of what you speak. I'm gonna pile these up, make a nice little.
So one of the things that you can do in the game that I've really not been successful at is you can actually haggle. I would like to haggle if someone is willing. I will give up a 2 brick for a stone if someone would like to. And this also does not count as my action on my turn. It's a free action.
I'm gonna hard no.
Putting it politely. Michael, can I interest you in 2 brick for a stone?
Yeah, debate this one.
It's kind of like Catan.
Well, I'll be
Yeah.
honest, it was a good deal, but I unfortunately don't have the stone to
You don't have the stones?
have the stones.
He's not willing to share. Leaves me 1 short. But you know what? I'll be nice.
Alrighty.
Oh.
Thank you, kind sir.
You're
All
welcome.
right, so when Tim wins, I'm coming after you.
So I will plan my Sphinx. So I have 3 stone. I have 6 brick. And 2
Normally I
wheat.
don't trade. This is strictly for demonstration purposes.
However, you have to sell it to yourself.
Oh no, it was because it doesn't benefit me really. I will step out.
Oh. Okay.
Wow. Strong move.
So when you're the first one to resign, basically, you can have any of the available resign bonuses. So in this case, like I had said before, a brick and a point, a stone and a card, or 5 wheat.
Well, so you could have gotten your stone.
Yeah.
I could have gotten it, but then I wouldn't have been able to use it.
Just trying to help you out.
I'm at the, I like the quantity of 5 wheat, but these cards seem to be pretty valuable.
They are pretty good.
Speaking of which, I'm going to go to a city. City allows you to draw 2 cards and keep 1.
You've been rocking those city cards all game.
I have.
To much effect. We can see Chris is actually in the lead up here. That's the purple guy. Michael is yellow, and of course, Dad is green.
But I do get the sweet, sweet regent token.
You will get the be regent for the final turn. Where do I want to place? I can place it on any of the 2s or 3 wheat. So I think I'll just place it right there. And that'll give me 4 points.
And you're out, so just me. I am going to go ahead and use a boon card that allows me to build my monument on a section occupied by a worker. So I'd like it in the 3 side of the agriculture field. Thank you.
Yeah.
With 4 points for that, please.
Well, unfortunately, I am out of workers. There are no workers in the worker pool, and I don't think I am going to go to the market, so I will resign.
All right, well,
So now it's all Chris.
pick up some more city cards.
Oh, that was my final Sphinx, so I don't think anybody else played the 3rd one yet, have they?
They have not.
So I will get 2 points for being the first.
So I'll discard that. And then I will go to the city on the end for 2 more cards.
Well, we've plowed through that city card deck.
You mean Chris did?
Well, that's true. I think I've only played 2.
Alright, so speaking of which then, we are going to take 1 stone from the supply for each quarry that has a worker on it, which if I'm not mistaken are 3.
There you go.
There you go. And then
Yes, a plethora of city cards.
I'm going to play the peddler card for the resources on it.
So he's going to get a wheat and a stone.
And then then I think that's it.
All right, so the cleanup is I will pass the regent token to Michael since he was the first to resign. He will get his resign token back, and we'll cover that spot. We'll each take our resign tokens back. We'll clear the resources off the board and put all the workers in the bag. Nobody had any unbuilt monuments, so that will be the end of the cleanup. Well, Chris and I ended up with 36 points, and Michael ended up with 33. However, the tiebreaker is the player who has the most resources left. I had 1 brick. Chris had
3 brick and a wheat.
So Chris wins. All right, so now let's get to what we think. So I will start since it's my house. When the first time I played this game, the first round, I was kind of a little overwhelmed because there's 10 actions that you can take. And we played a 2-player game. It was Chris and I. And so you put more of the unused monuments on the board to kind of tighten it up. And I kind of struggled with that just a little bit, not really sure why, but by the second and third turn, I was fine. This is actually, I've played this now several times, and everything has kind of gotten to be boom, boom, boom. So overall, I really enjoy the game. I enjoy kind of the change resources into other resources via the market. The fact that the resources are scarce sometimes can really play into what you're doing, because you can use up resources that somebody else needs, and it could actually force them to actually resign if they can't do anything else in their turn. So I find that strategy there to be really kind of cool that you can employ. We've found in, I think, all the games that we've played, the city cards are very important. Yeah. Chris, you just used a ton of them this game.
I did. I think that propelled me quite a bit. I would basically, if there were any workers left in the pool here, I would buy them since they're 2 resources. And every time you take a city card, the minimum you're going to get is 2 resources out of it. So I figured it gave me an opportunity just to look and see if the power was more beneficial than the 2 resources. So I like that aspect of it quite a bit.
Yeah, the boon cards are nice. It's they're one-offs, but everybody's got the same one that they can play, and some of those can be very beneficial, especially being able to build where there's a worker already.
So I like the economic model you mentioned, the availability of resources, the ability to trade the resources here, but once each of these trade icons is used, it's out of play for the rest of the turn. I like how it closes down that way. I like the monument building, how there is a variety of resources required for each one. So if somebody else has taken one spot, or if you're not able to get that resource that you're looking for, you have a different combination that still allows you to build the monument. I like that aspect of it. One of the things that was confusing to me, it took me a little while to get, is the areas here where each area has 2 sets of icons on it, but when you place your worker, you're going to get both of them, and then when you place a monument, it only takes half of it. It took a little bit of getting used to. Once you understand it, it's not a problem, but that first play was a little confusing with that in mind.
And we were talking about the tightness of the board, and really in that first turn, when this is the only area that you're going to go to, unless you have your master laborers, that gets pretty tight. And having the knowledge of being the regent and knowing what workers are left in the bag, so knowing kind of what other workers are out, is pretty beneficial, because I know a couple times when I was regent and I knew which ones those were, I was purposely blocking some of those spots because I knew that that's what you guys had left.
Yeah, it's also helpful if you still have your boon card that allows you to pull one of the workers from the bag. If you know both of them are master builders, then you can you're going to get something that plays just about anywhere. That, though, the bag portion of it, I think, is one of the things that I didn't love about it. It's a little bit too much luck in this particular game, while ultimately it proved out to be not an issue. But I didn't get a single master worker through the entire game.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
Yeah, didn't you get one the last round?
No, I did not.
Oh, I thought you did.
Nope, I had a card that allowed me to gain extra resources, but 0 master workers.
Yeah, and playing the resources to the board when you're using the market and blocking those spots, I think, is really kind of cool. Plus, whenever you do the resign, what to say like the resign action, covering up those bonuses for future turns, I think, is really good too. Because early on, you can see, you've got 4 brick there and 3 stone, and those become very valuable, and not being able to get those resources in order to build, because if you're trying to build your pylons, you need a lot of those. Even when you're building the sphinxes, you still need a fair amount of stones. So those are just things that kind of play into the overall strategy of the game.
I think the caravan tile is interesting as well. The first person that goes to the caravan tile takes whichever set of resources they want, but then anybody that follows along in the line of in the progression has to give up one of the resources that they're going to gain. I really like that as an ability to get some resources.
Yeah, and in a 2 and 3 player game, the other caravan spot is already taken. So you can see they're slightly different, but that also tightens it up. It would be cool to play this with 4 and 5 to see exactly how much we're stepping on each other's toes in order to try to do things. And I think that's where the market's really going to come in, because when you're not able to get those resources from the board, your only other option is the market. And speaking of the market, there are city cards that allow you to take resources off of the market, and basically collect those. So that will give you the ability to free up some of those spots just in case. But the more players you have, the more chances you're going to have that people are going to take those spots. So you can see this guy here. It says you get to take 2 tokens from the market and 2 tokens from the labor pool. So having those tokens or having those resources on the board in that way, I think is really kind of a neat aspect of the gameplay.
Yeah, and I think because taking them away from the trade market opens that trade action back up, I think is really interesting as well.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the artwork. First off, the box cover, I think, is really cool. Of course, I like Egyptian themed games. I'm fascinated with ancient Egypt, but I think the artwork on that is really cool. The artwork on the board, I think, is really good as well.
Yeah, the iconography is easy to read. Like I said, the way that the harvest actions, the locations are kind of split into 2 sections, but not really sectioned off, is a little confusing. But aside from that, everything is pretty clear and easy to read through the rest of the game.
Yeah, the artwork on the cards, I think, is equally as good as like the box art and the art that's on the board itself.
The player screen is really easy to read. Allows you to see end game scoring on the left and right sides. Allows you to see what your starting resources are through the middle. I really like those. Really helps with setup.
Yeah, and the artwork on the overall screen, I think, is really cool too. The quality of the components, I think, is really good. These are nice wooden pieces. They look like they're supposed to look. So the pylons and the sphinxes and the obelisks, they're not much definition to them, but it's an obelisk.
The master builders have
clothes.
Have the clothes on both sides, which is really helpful as well. It would be very easy to just do the one side and call it good enough, but having it on both sides makes it very legible on the board.
And the resource tokens, with those being nice painted wood, I think is really cool. And even the scoring markers here that we have, having those being painted on both sides as well. Get your guy sitting in the chair there, sitting on the throne. Really kind of neat. There we go. All right, so that is Sailing Toward Osiris, and we will catch you guys next time.
Bye.
If you would like to support us, you can visit patreon.com/dadvdaughter.
Like and follow us on Facebook to stay current on our show schedule, sneak peeks at future shows, and to interact with us.